All right, guys, welcome to another video. Today, we're going to do a quick account review, but also like a 3-month account progress update. I'm going to talk about some just general principles that I have for building my account, why I chose to go the route I did. And also, the reason why I like to do 3 months is just because you think KVK is about 2 months, right? And then usually an off season before when you did first pop, it would be a little under a month. Now, I guess you could actually do it in about like 2 to 3 weeks, maybe 3 weeks. And then if you max skip, right, it's closer to 4 months. But regardless, every 3 months, I've been doing an account progress update since I started making my channel. And one, it's interesting, it gives me content. But two, I feel like it's very beneficial for me to actually document where my account was at certain times, and then kind of talk about it so I can remember like what was easy, what wasn't, when I felt like I crossed over a threshold where I could compete with other people. And so here's my account. All right, so I have a 132 ID. It used to be considered younger. At this point, I think it's still a young-ish, but probably closer to middle age, right? You can see at the VIP at the top. I've never missed a day, right? So I've been playing for 936 days, and I'm VIP 18 now. I think I hit that about a month and a half ago. I tend to keep my power relatively low, so the highest power ever is about 91 and a half mil power. Right now I'm at 91, so I'm probably going to actually set a new high, right? And then my deads are actually like fairly low for how old my account is. You can see the most deads I ever took was 2.3 mil. I swarm if it's appropriate. I fill a lot with farms. Also, there's just been several KVKs where it maybe I thought the KVK was going to go longer and it abruptly, right? But I've never actually fully zeroed myself. I've been wanting to, but there's just never been a case where personally I felt like I was drained. There's only been one KVK where I actually ran out of resources. I think it was KVK 5 for me. But personally, I've actually never been in a KVK where I just felt like I was like out of reach speeds, out of troops, and I just couldn't fight anymore. So I don't know, maybe I need to take more deads, but that's where it's at right now, right? I actually have traded T1 before. I think it was like KVK2 when I was a complete noob. I didn't know what was going on. But you can see as far as the T4 T5 ratio, right? It looks pretty clean. I maybe traded like 3 or 4 million T1 units in KVK2 or something. But other than that, I've never done any of this. And then the Altark is actually from 2 or 3 KVKs ago now, when I was still in 2268. That was by far the most fighting I've ever gotten in KVK. And then since then, we really haven't had the same kind of fighting or prolonged fighting for me to try to actually raise that higher, right? But overall, this is my account. If I had to rate this account, as far as the equipment, armaments, and the commanders, I would probably call it like a tier 3 account. If you think tier 1 is just the best of the best, right? Like the very top players in the very best kingdoms. Tier 2 are usually like the best players and like most like A seed or even like low imps. You know, they have multiple crits, like whatever. I would call my account tier 3. Individually, I don't have one set that's really that great, but what makes this like tier 3 to me is because it's actually a lot wider and every set is actually in a pretty good place, right? So I think if I went to like a very top kingdom, this will probably be about an average account there, maybe slightly above average. And then with the spin and, you know, what I'm doing with Crystal Tech, it will be like slightly above average, probably. But it's very, very far off from tier 1, like very far off. That's like a whole different stratosphere. And then even tier 2 will smoke me on the field, right? So that's the reality of it. In the current rock landscape, from my observation, almost all of those tier 1 accounts are gathered in like 2 or 3 kingdoms, right? Maybe you will have a straggler here or there, just like Makote in 1846. But if you're talking about a tier 1 account, they're all in like 960, 2377, and like those kingdoms. All right. And let's actually go over each troop type by itself and then kind of the progress over the last 3 months, right? So the last time I actually released one of these, it was October 22nd, so about 3 months ago. And you can actually see I was still missing iconic crystals, right? Like with this Guan skip, I was running Guan skip again at the time. I'm running Ragnar Scipio now. So obviously I have the iconic, everything is at least awakened 2. The boots are 4. In general, I think a good principle to use, unless you're rally garrison, right? is to actually think about building your set by cost per mat, right? So if you think there's gray, there's green, there's blue, right, purple. Usually people just skip the gray equipment, at least go straight to like windswept or something, right? But the amount of stats you get per mat spent gets higher and higher and higher, right? So basically, if you're crafting a blue piece, the amount of mats you have to spend to actually get a stat is going to be a lot lower, right? And then as your equipment gets better and better, you're going to have to actually spend a lot more mats just to get another point up, right? And that's very important for a game like this because it's a catch-up mechanism. So as people get further along in the game, they're going to have an advantage because they've been playing longer and right, like they started first. But it shouldn't be so hard where if someone started first, the people that started later can at least get within competitive range of them, right? So using that principle in mind, for example, ideally, if you want to do cost per mats, once you have full legendary, usually Awaken 2 is where you want to get to. And then from there, you actually want to crit that piece before you take it further, right? Some exceptions would be the boots, just because, especially for archers right now, right, they're very much missing in march speed. So it actually would be worth it to say take it to Awaken 4 or Awaken 5. But in general, I think Awaken 2 and crit. And the reason why you do that is because the amount of mats and blueprints you have to spend to get the stat increase, that's actually taking advantage of that cost per mat or blueprint, right? So you can see from here, I finished my full legendary. I actually still have this blue flag. I put it on my siege, but then also the armament did get a little bit better. If you actually look at the two armament sets on the bottom, right, the one on the right is actually better, right? The one of the Certus, Spiked, and Focus Fire, even though the one on the left looks cleaner. And the reason why the one on the right's better is just because it has better armaments and they're actually providing more stats, right? So whenever I'm mentoring people, I always say this. If it's a decent armament, usually it's at least equivalent to the best stat, right? So if you have something like Wary, which you get 3.5 attack, it's actually just like a mid or regular common inscription, right? But if you actually got 3.5 attack on the stats, you're ecstatic because that's the highest you can get. So when you're judging an armament, judge it off of the inscriptions first and then the stats second. Right, and on the left, I'm on the right. I'm still running Lucia Alex. Obviously, the equipment improved some more. I actually have Awaken 3 on the Hope Cloak here, and it's not for any specific reason. That was like when it was like one off season, maybe like 6-7 months ago now, when we were doing a max skip, and I was just really bored. Like I didn't want to save. I couldn't get into KVK to get more iconic crystals, and rather than just like feel like I'm just hoarding and not doing anything, I literally just upgraded the Hope Cloak to Awaken 3 just because I could. But in general, I actually don't think it's a good idea to go to Awaken 3. I know Kingdom like 960 recommends everyone does it for more troop capacity, but I don't understand the logic. Maybe someone could explain it to me. It's just like for the amount of mats and blueprints you're spending, right, just to get like 500 or 800 more troop capacity, that's like not even like a fifth of a white damage sometime, right? So I don't understand that, but you can see out here too, right? Everything at least Awaken 2. The boosts are 4. Also, I don't think anyone, if you're not rally or garrisoning, should actually go to Awaken 2 on the accessories, just because it costs you a lot of actual mats to get like the 1 point of health, right, or whatever you're getting out of it. It's not a very, very good deal when you figure like you could spend half that amount of mats and actually get a % of health somewhere else, right? And you can also see this is probably the one where I got the biggest improvement in my armaments, all right, from the Lucia Alex from the left to the right. I got lucky. I pulled a Fearless, right, from a travel actually. That was my first one, right? The other one I literally got it from a pity. And then Invincible was just my second time I got the 8 shards, and I decided to do the Invincible today. I actually did a stream today. Felt like I was getting wrecked, and then started getting lucky, and it actually looks pretty good now, right? I wouldn't be opposed to actually going to Destructive. I know in the community right now, there's a lot of hate on Destructive, right? Because, oh, you're going to lose Rage. I already went over my reasoning why I think that Rage loss is a little overrated. I mean, anyone wants to actually test it, right? Any armament that you think is better, test it with destructive and then test it with whatever armament you think is better. And the destructive is actually going to end up doing more DPS, right? If you're just doing straight turns, it's going to take less turns. And that's staying connected, right? So that's when losing rage like that will make the biggest impact. In an actual open fielding scenario, a destructive is still really good. And the sphere of like losing rage from destructive is very overrated, in my opinion. And then finally, this is what I plan to run starting out, right? Ragnar Scipio, Luce Alex, but I do actually want to test out Luce Philip. And I put Ragnar Philip here because I actually played on an account that was running Ragnar Philip and also Luce Alex. And the Luce Alex had the best equipment. But actually looking at the reports manager, and this is fighting for about like 3.5 hours, Ragnar Philip and Luce Alex traded almost the same, right? It was crazy. Whereas I've heard feedback from a lot of people now, Ragnar Scipio is about like, will trade about 15% better than Guan Scipio, right? But obviously you're missing the silence. And I would highly recommend anyone who's short on gold heads to just skip Ragnar at this point. You know, I don't think he's worth investing, right? If you're ahead on gold heads, you want to get maybe a slight like upgrade, 15-ish% in trades on the field over a Guan Skip, go for it. But I don't think Ragnar's a good long-term investment, just because he doesn't have a lot of things that will keep him around. And also, it's just not so much better than Guan Skip, where I think it's like a must invest. Next, let's go to Cavalry. This is the one where I'm just putting 2 marches on here, but there could be a lot of changes. You could also obviously see the upgrading the equipment here. The wedge set on the left I still have, but I actually think Arthur Primary, so utilizing the combo damage, is very underrated right now. If you actually give me the choice right now to run Arthur Primary based on all the commanders that are available, I actually think the Arch formation is a better play than the Delta formation. I think down the road, where you have another commander that does a combo attack more in line with what Arthur is doing, not so much what Luce is doing, a Delta formation will actually shine a lot more. But right now, I think Arch is just better, right? So using the conversion stones, built an Arch set. This doesn't look really clean, right? It has 2 irrelevant stats. But again, what I talked about earlier, if you gave me the choice between these 2 armament sets right now, right? The one on the wedge, the one on the Arch, I think the one on the Arch is already better right now, right? Even though it has 2 irrelevant stats. So the upside's a lot higher. Part of the reason just because it has better armaments, better inscriptions, and also just more inscriptions, right? We can see here too, I have a set helm that I crafted fairly early on in my rock journey. I had a blue helm for a few KVKs, and at that time, getting a robust on your scroll, the top left corner, for the armaments was like important, right? Just because at that time, like, armaments was very hard to do back then, right? So I just got really impatient and waiting to try to get the Pride of the Khan, so I ended up crafting this. Once I'm actually fully caught up, I think I'll eventually dismantle this set, calf set helm, and then just craft a Pride of the Khan, right? So right now, what I plan on starting out with is actually trying Arthur William, and then running Nevsky Joe. I think the best pairing right now for Arthur Primary, not in the Artifact KVK, is actually probably Arthur Philip, but I want to use my Philip somewhere else. So Arthur William will just kind of be like a starting out, just to test how Arthur does as a combo commander. I think none of the tests that people are doing, whether it's duels, 5v5, 3v3, 77, or like the battle simulator, can actually really show how good a combo is. So I want to test that out for myself. When I'm testing, I'll kind of go over 3 things, right? One, the eyeball or the field test, just my personal anecdotal like experience using the March. Do I enjoy it? Does it feel fast enough? Does it feel squishy? You know, like, what do I notice with that, right? Does it get out of position very easily? Which is actually a problem with Joan Belly. It's just too fast, right? So if it actually makes contact first, it's always going to swing out. And if it swings out too fast, it's swinging out so fast that your other marches can get into position to hit. And then either you have to reposition again, or the Joan and Belly is going to be out of position. And then it won't do as well, right? So if you have a Joan Belly, you actually want as little extra march speed on there as possible for that reason, right? Because I'm using Philip somewhere else, I actually decided to test out Arthur William. I know my boy Bicane's real high on this, and really what we're leaning into with William is he has a instant proc. It's at least 1,000 damage factor, and then if you're surrounding a target, it could get up to 1,500. And with Arthur William, we really want to see if you could almost kind of recreate that Luce Alex effect, really leaning into an instant proc. I do think Alex's instant proc is just better than Williams. That's kind of like a no-brainer, right? But at least this way I could kind of see how it does, and I could kind of at least give a assessment of Arthur as primary. And then for the second Cav commander, I'm just going to run Nev Joan. I do want to test Arthur Philip, Joan Arthur, and then Nevsky Arthur, right? And I also have Belly that's not on the screen here. So I'll kind of mix and match to see what works. But every one of these testing pairs, including Arthur William, that'll have my best equipment on there, just so at least there's some consistency there. And then I'll report back on that in like a video over the next few days. Oh, by the way, part of the reason why I'm making this too is because this should be released on the 16th, and on the 17th, our Zone 4, our Pass 4 actually opens, and then we have Zone 5 fighting. So hopefully I'll actually be able to test a lot of these pairs and then report back on what I notice. All right, archers, I'm actually dropping Boudica and then replacing them with Philip, right? This is why I like Philip. Really, I feel like he could go anywhere, but the first place I want to go is behind ZL. Now, it was just brought to my attention again yesterday. I think the Kane, I don't know if he discovered this or someone else told him, but actually looking through the reports, and I did it myself, Philip's expertise, when it triggers ZL active skill again, that active skill does not trigger another marquee effect, which is kind of a bummer, right? Because maybe if it was doing it, it would just be too broken, because you're getting an extra rage engine, you're getting another like potential 3 target 1500 damage factor AoE. I don't know if it would have been too broken, but I still think even without that, this is actually where ZL will fit the best, just because, well, Philip will fit the best with ZL, because ZL is just missing March speed, right? And right now, Philip is just giving you flat 20% March speed. Ashbenapal is doing it, it's off territory, even though you don't necessarily need it on territory, but this is actually the pair I would really try. And then again, right, I talked about earlier that Luce Alex effect, right? If you do Arthur William, you do ZL Philip, you do Luce Alex, right? You have a AoE primary commander, and you have an instant proc secondary commander, right? Can you actually kind of like recreate that? You can see my armaments here. It's really the Hunter, right? This is actually my first one. So won our first KVK, and then got the Altark last KVK. So hopefully we can actually make it 2 in a row. And then also a slight upgrade with the armament for my second archer set. The stats are slightly better, but also just more inscriptions, and also better inscriptions, right? So like even though some people see the all damage is 0.5%, but it's actually like more significant than I think people realize. And then also my second archer set, I'm still missing the Dragon's Breath chest to get to Awaken 2. And then this was actually kind of a I'm gonna call it a mistake, but I actually originally decided to just craft the leadership boots for something else, and then a crit, and then I just decided to replace the flame treads. Anyways, I know this is not how like people recommend it. So at some point, I actually do, interestingly enough, plan on crafting an 8th set full leadership, and that way, if I want to run 7 marches and not use siege in my 7, I can actually flex it a cav, infantry, or archer, right? But I can also run it as a city garrison. It's more like a long-term project. When that happens, I'm going to move this leadership glove, right, as part of the leadership set, and I'll craft a Dragon's Breath to kind of make it that 4-2 combo. And then I actually also want to test Herman Philip. No one's really talking about it. The reason why is just because Herman doesn't need March speed nearly as much as ZL, but I have a theory that Herman actually does better as a primary. And right now, right, everyone is saying the best archer march is ZL Herman, which it's not like not good, but it's just not like dominating like how you would expect 2 commanders of this caliber to pair together, right? And I'll make a future video on it, on why I think Herman probably actually is meant to be a primary as well. And if that's the case, then it's way better to separate them. For anyone thinking Herman YSG is too squishy, it's not. This will be my 4th KVK running it, and it actually has traded almost as well, sometimes better than a ZL Herman. And then funny enough, even ZL Boudica was trading almost as well, sometimes better than ZL Herman, right? So I actually want to start with my ZL Philip on, well, my Philip behind ZL, but I actually do want to test Herman Philip too, and I'll report on that as well. And finally, the siege, not much has changed. The armaments stay the same. The equipment pretty much stay the same. I just decided to move the horn somewhere else and then put the flag here. Even though siege, if you had to craft one accessory, it actually would be a horn, right? I don't think horn is the best accessory. For almost all cases, it's a Ring of Doom. But for siege specifically, they have a problem generating rage because they are only doing a basic attack and then getting a counter attack back, right? But a lot of times, a huge chunk of the rage generation is actually when someone does a basic attack to you, and then you do a counter attack back to them. Because siege aren't getting that, they're actually getting like base rage at like it's not quite half the rate, but it's significantly less. So having a rage generating accessory actually helps a lot, right? Right here, I'm just waiting on iconic crystals, right? My account, again, not that young, but still on the younger side. Hopefully by next KVK, I'll be able to finish all my iconic crystals, at least for my 7 sets. But what's really interesting for this is in Canyon, my Gajamata Cordoba, which are max, with this equipment, actually is outperforming my Ragnar Scipio with the equipment that you saw earlier, right? So once this gets iconic crystal, it's actually really, it will be like significantly more powerful, and then especially like in Cannon, right? So that's actually my 7 sets. Again, I kind of went over where I think it is. If I had to rate my own account, I would say it's in tier 3 right now. It doesn't mean there's not people in tier 3 that are better or worse, right? But there's just like almost like a clear cut difference, right? And for me, I would say it's tier 3, not because one set is that good, right? Like all the crits I have on here are natural crits or a pity crit, but just because I actually went very, very wide, and then it's actually pretty balanced, right? So, and then one last thing, I think I forgot to mention it earlier. Once an account kind of catches up on accessories, it'll actually look a lot better faster. But as far as the rate of progression, my account didn't really progress that like faster the last 3 months compared to the 3 months before that, right? But I caught up on my accessories 3 months ago, and that's why a lot of the stuff, like it looked like I still have purples, or there were like no iconic crystals, whatever. And then almost everything's Awakened 2 now. It's just because it costs 120 mats to do accessory, right? If you had a purple accessory and then you dismantle that, it'll bring the cost down to 105, right? It's essentially, if you're doing the same thing with, say, like an equipment where you're dismantling the epic to craft the legendary, it's costing about like 2.5 any other piece of equipment that's not weapon, right? So whenever you're done with the accessories, your set tends to look a lot better. But if people are still working on their accessories and have purples, it's important to keep that in mind when you're evaluating an account, especially younger accounts that are still working on this stuff. I feel like a lot of people just look at the legendaries and they don't actually get a good gauge of, okay, like cost per mats, right? Like which part where the purple is good enough for now, which part do they need the legendaries to really get the stats, right? You're doing a stat swap from attack to health. So like for attacks to be viable. But hopefully by next KVK, I'll have, well, actually, I know I'll have also Awakened 2 KVK weapon for this, and then the boost will all be at Awakened 5, and then hopefully I can start getting some of these siege weapons or siege equipment to Awakened 2 as I get more iconic crystals. Right. But anyways, that's it for the video. Thank you guys for watching. Our pass opening is actually in 2 days, or actually, when you guys see this video, it'll be the next day on January 17th at 15 UTC. So I'll stream it. Probably won't stream it when the pass first opens, just because there's a lot of stuff I probably have to do and help with. But definitely keep an eye on us, 3092. Again, thank you guys for watching, and I'll talk to you guys next time.